in my opinion, from watching that Michigan game, Hunter Dickinson was the game changer. His size and, like you were saying, Keegan, his dominance out there was what gave Michigan that win. That being said, I think looking at Tennessee's basketball team, and when we've played against teams that have one or two stars, offensively speaking, and then the rest of the court, it's kind of, we don't really, it's a mixed bag. We're able to hold those teams down, especially second half of the season. You look at the second game against Kentucky. You look at our game against Auburn. Big name players on those teams, but outside of those guys, again, it was a mixed bag, and we were able to hold the rest of the team down relatively and get the wins in those situations. So I think with Michigan, Hunter Dickinson being a game changer against Colorado State, yes, but versus us, even if he has a really good game, I don't see anybody else in that Michigan squad being able to really contribute in a meaningful way that makes them a real threat against us. I'm confident, but at the same time, I've had my heart broken by Michigan before, back when we had Jordan McRae, Josh Richardson, and Jarnell Stokes. So it's going to be an interesting game for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that, Grant. I mean, I think Michigan doesn't really have the best second options. I mean, they have Caleb Houston, who's a 5-star. He's kind of coming into his own here late in the season, but he's still not there yet. He's very streaky in games, and I think just overall, our guards will overwhelm them. They don't really have great guard play. Now they do have their point guard who did not play against Colorado State, who is questionable to come back. He's just in concussion protocol. So if he clears that, he should be at 100% because there's no other injury than concussion. That's not going to really affect your play. So if he clears that, that might be something to, look towards and that might scare you a little bit. But again, I think, a Kennedy Chandler, a Kai Ziegler, a Vescovy is just better than any guard they can put out there. So I think the guard play is going to matter, especially on the offensive end. But
yeah, so Tennessee, Michigan also got the upset, of course, against Colorado State. Wait, is that correct? I'm so sorry, y'all.
Yes, Colorado State upset by seed, but right. I don't even know if I want to call that an upset. I mean, they were favored, I believe.
Right, Michigan in basketball is never, I've noticed, never bad men or women's. I was heartbroken, of course, when the women's went out to Michigan last year in the NCAA tournament. And they got a little bit further than the men, of course, after going out to the first round, but still. So next up, number 11 seed Michigan for Tennessee. We do have a lot to talk about here. Kentucky loses in the first round to a 15 seed St. Peter's 85-79. Kentucky went in being a number 2 seed. Do we agree with that? Not all of us agree that Kentucky should be a number 2 seed, of course, but that was what they went in being, and they go out in the first round. John Calipari and Kentucky Wildcats went out in the first round to a 15 seed St. Peter's. It was a close game, but they are still done for the season. Did you all catch this game, and what does this mean for Kentucky?
I watched the whole thing. I was smiling ear to ear watching that. It was just great to watch them. I also listened to some Kentucky sports radio to listen to them complain about the team. They're all saying this is the worst loss in Kentucky history, which I agree with. I think they've had some worse loss in the regular season, but March Madness matters more, so that's just a bad loss. Obviously, it seems like as of recent, you kind of have a 2 go down to a 15 every other year. If you would have asked me which 2 is going to go down to a 15, I wouldn't have said Kentucky, though. That kind of surprised me. I mean, some of their guys still did some stuff. Oscar Tshiebwe had a good game, but they just couldn't stop them on the defensive end, and that was kind of their biggest problem there. And also, I mean, as far as the 2 seed goes, obviously I thought Tennessee should have got it over them, but I don't necessarily think that Kentucky shouldn't have got a 2 seed. They were a top 10 team all season, and they played well towards the end. Obviously, they lost us in the tournament, but I don't think that's something that says, oh, they're definitely not a 2 seed. But obviously, yesterday, they proved they probably shouldn't have been one.
Right. Connor at the Hill, how about you?
I didn't think that they probably should have been a 2 seed, to be honest. I mean, maybe like a 4, maybe. That's kind of what I was feeling, because they did kind of tail off at the end there. But I also watched the whole game, loved it. Halfway through, I put $5 on it just because, and I ended up winning like $40. So that was always fun. But I also found out that Kentucky fans who made the trip to Indianapolis had to drive back in the shape of an L to get back to Lexington. So that's always nice.
That's a fun little tidbit there. Yeah, Kentucky, man. after getting the loss to Tennessee, and which it was great. I think that was a well deserved win for the Vols. Obviously, a little bit biased, and then losing in the first round. I mean, Kentucky. This always happens to a point. I feel like where Kentucky will start losing. And in the end of the season, it happened last year, kind of in the middle of the season, and then people will start saying, "Well, Kentucky's not going to be the name in basketball that they have been this whole time." But I don't really know how I feel about that. I always think Kentucky is going to have a run in it, and if they don't, that's a rare year. Grant, did you catch the Kentucky game?
Yeah, and as Keegan was saying, I mean, this was just, and also what Connor was saying, it was just an enjoyable viewing event. You know, it was nice watching this happen. Couldn't have happened to a better team, but no, look, Kentucky's like any other team. They're going to get eliminated early sometimes by teams you don't expect. I mean, I look back to a Duke team that was stacked, that had Jabari Parker and Jason Tatum and a bunch of other people. I mean, it was just a stacked team. They got knocked out, I think, second round. So I think, like you were saying, Chloe, you can never count out a team like Kentucky. There's going to be, again, some early exits every now and then, but for the most part, they're going to stay the course and be a contender year in, year out, because John Calipari, whether we like it or not, being at Tennessee, he is a consistent kingmaker when it comes to players going on to the NBA, being top 10, number 1 overall, just like massively high draft picks and having their lives completely changed. You sign with Kentucky and you're going. I mean, look at Karl Anthony Towns, who's part of this massive platoon team that lost the national championship, and like 8 of those guys went to the NBA. Devin Booker was in that group too, and he wasn't even considered like one of the top guys, and now he's a obviously superstar in the NBA. So just John Calipari and Kentucky, they will be back. I have no idea who they're recruiting, who they're going to bring in, but I'm sure it's going to be someone that can take them to at least the Sweet 16 next year.
Right, for sure. I definitely agree with you. Kentucky's, whether we want to believe it or not, you said the thing about you were happy about Kentucky. We're Tennessee fans at this point. We're done being classy. We you know what I mean. That's a joke, of course. But Nick Hill on StreamYard, alumni and friend of the show, really wants us to mention. He is from down in Chattanooga, and UTC right now they made the tournament this year, is beating 4-seed Illinois 16-6 in the first quarter. So, or not the first quarter, sorry, first half. So that's pretty good for University of Tennessee. Chattanooga, our little neighbor to the south.
Chat nasty.
Yeah. So that would be exciting. I mean, my bracket would be even more busted if UTC wins. But I mean, I would still be happy for Chattanooga. I have a lot of friends that go down there, and it's always nice to see. So always nice to see UTC.
That's the hometown. Gotta give him some love.
Oh yeah, Connor's from Chattanooga as well. Yeah, of course. Anything to say? Did you have UTC winning by any chance?
I did actually. I actually did.
Oh.
I've been to a couple of their games. I went to some over Christmas break. Honestly, the really strong team.
Sweet.
Surprised me. The first game I went to, I was very surprised. They play really well. The Jean Baptiste, I think he's their Fulkerson. If I'm not mistaken, he's been there since 16 as well.
Oh, okay. Dang.
Yeah, but yeah, he's an absolute baller.
Dang. All right. Well, that'll be super exciting. That's a game that's going on right now. So definitely, I'm definitely gonna have to tune in. Moving on to some of these other games here in the SEC. Of course, Arkansas barely inches past the first round. They beat Vermont 75-71. I mean, they still won, but like I said, they barely beat Vermont. These are all interesting to me, Kentucky and Arkansas, because these are teams that the Tennessee Vols just played, and now we're seeing them. And both of them we've beat as well, and now we're seeing them barely get past the first round in March Madness to these really low seeds. But really, us Tennessee had no problem getting past a lower seed in the first round of March Madness. So I don't know. I'm hoping that's something good. Did anyone catch the Arkansas game? And if you just want to say anything else, any games you're excited for tonight? Games you picked an upset for tonight?
Yeah, I did watch the Vermont-Arkansas game. I had Vermont. I've been watching Vermont this season. I actually like their team, so I ended up picking them and got close there. I really thought they were going to pull it out, but on the side of Arkansas, I mean, they didn't impress me at all. Obviously, when you're a 4 seed playing a 13, A win's a win in March Madness, and they move on, and now they got a good draw because UConn lost. So they have New Mexico State, who's a 12 in the second round, so they should have a fairly easy path to the Sweet 16. But overall, they didn't impress me, and other than Tennessee, the SEC just hasn't impressed me in this tournament. And maybe that says something that our league might not have been as good as we thought. I mean, obviously Kentucky losing, Auburn ran away with it at the end, but they were going back and forth with who were they playing? They were going back and forth with Jacksonville State, who didn't even win their conference tournament. That's the whole thing. So that was odd. Tennessee's really the one who ran away with it. Now, does that mean Tennessee's that much better, or do we just get a good draw with the 14 that we got? I'm not positive, but we'll probably find that out tomorrow.
Right, for sure. Grant?
Yeah, I was just going to reiterate again what we said at the beginning of this segment, that with the eliminations that we've seen, the unexpected ones of Kentucky and a number of others, this is anybody's tournament. And I would love to see Tennessee make a deep run. And Brandon on the Monday show, or Wednesday show, rather, he said that Tennessee, he has them going Elite Eight. I don't know if I see us going Elite Eight, but I think it's definitely in the cards. And this Vols team has done an amazing job, and we have two great point guards and just incredible chemistry. So I'd love to see us make a deep run, and I think we could do it.
I think so as well. I'm looking super positive into this, and I'm not sure if it's what I predicted, but of course, I'm always going to be happy to see Tennessee do well. And I think that, I mean, like I said earlier, looking at how the confidence that Tennessee seems to have versus the confidence of other SEC teams, I always think that the SEC is great and that the SEC is one of the best, is always in the top runnings for any sport. But I mean, really now it is looking not how I predicted the SEC to look so far. I mean, there's only been so many games, but how about you, Connor? Any thoughts on the SEC and how it's going to look overall in March Madness?
I've been surprised too, to be honest. I do agree that we are the premier sports league in college. But basketball this year, I don't know if we've been as good as we have been in years past, like just as overall as a whole as a league. I think this year the teams have been better on a whole, but I don't think we have those teams that are great, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Yeah, I'm really not sure. Of course, anything can go in March Madness. Also, I know Keegan mentioned it. UConn is out after they lost to New Mexico State, 70 to 63. I predicted UConn to win, but I mean, always, I don't want to say excited, but always interesting to see them lose, men or women's, right? Creighton's kind of on a roll, beat Sandy in both men's and women's, beat San Diego State 72 to 69. I mean, Creighton's only a 9 seed, San Diego State is an 8, but still. All right, to close this segment out, I wanted to ask all of you all about a game that you're excited for tonight or in the following days, and maybe like a game looking at your bracket that you picked an upset for and why. I'll start with Grant.
Well, for me, first and foremost, the game that I'm most excited for is tomorrow's Tennessee-Michigan game. That's going to be just huge. I hope we get the win there. It's going to be really, really cool to watch that. And then for a team that I had upsetting, I had Creighton going to the Sweet 16. Creighton has been a basketball school for a couple years now. They had Doug McDermott come from there, great shooter. His father, I believe, is still the coach there. I may be wrong in that. But yeah, I'd like to see them go far. I also picked Marquette, but they got murdered by UNC. So that goes to show my prediction so far.
All right, Keegan.
Game I'm excited for tonight's got to be Michigan State. If you guys don't know, I'm a big Michigan State fan. So we have Davidson tonight, and Davidson's star player is actually a former Michigan State Spartan who we kind of forced out a little bit. He was our old point guard, Foster Lawyer. So it's going to be a fun matchup to see my team go up against this Davidson team who has one of our former players as a star. And obviously, if we win this game, we'll have the chance to most likely play Duke in the second round. So would love that shot to end Coach K's career. And as far as an upset, I love UAB tonight. So UAB has this player named Jordan Walker, but he's got this nickname Jelly. He had this crazy game in the conference tournament semifinals, went to triple overtime. He dropped 40, then 23 in the finals. So he's been super hot. If you guys haven't checked him out and watched him, definitely tune in to this UAB versus Houston game tonight because he's super fun point guard to watch. And I think Houston's an upset alert.
Oh, I'm going to have to 9:20 p.m. tonight on TNT. That's so funny to me. Arizona on True TV. Okay. Anyways, Connor, any upsets or games you're interested in tonight?
Well, I think it's really interesting that Keegan was talking about Houston and UAB right there, because I think Houston's a really good team. So that will be interesting for me to watch because I've kind of been following them all season. But for me, I don't know if you could really call it an upset, but I mean, it's a seed upset. I think Iowa State is going to beat LSU tonight. I just don't see LSU coming out and having a strong game after Will Wade, their head coach, is just fired. And then Iowa State is also, I think, a really solid basketball team. So that would be LSU, the 6th seed, losing to the 11th seed. But I don't know if you could call that an upset per se.
Right, for sure. I'm looking forward, actually, to Davidson versus Michigan State as well. I think that I picked Davidson for the upset in this one. I can't really explain to you why. I am familiar with Davidson. I do have a friend who goes there. But of course, Michigan State it's kind of Michigan State is expected to win like a little bit over 50%. So I think this could go either way. Well, not too much of an upset. Obviously, Michigan State is 7 seed and Davidson is a 10, and you know how it goes in March Madness. But I'm excited to see a lot of these games tonight. Super excited to see how it goes. Also, we got Wisconsin versus Colgate and Seton Hall versus TCU. So that should be interesting for tonight. And we can also see Arizona play if it comes down to it. I think that if the Tennessee Vols can get past Arizona again like they did in the beginning of the season, I think that there's a lot of potential in March Madness, and they'll be I think that they're going to be the champions. I don't know. Personally, I have Tennessee going out to Villanova in is it the Elite Eight? Yeah. So I don't know. We'll just have to see. But we're going to talk about the women's tournament here in a minute after this short break. Stay tuned for more March Madness talk. And then at the end, we're going to talk Diamond Sports. So stay tuned to 90.3 Rock Solid Sports.
90.3 The Rock, Knoxville's original music pioneers.
The Rock stays on air thanks to our Thursday Munchie Madness sponsor, The Hill Bar and Grill in the Fort on Forest Avenue. Open 7 days a week at 11 a.m. till late night with appetizers including spicy cheese beans and fried pickles and a menu of wings, burgers, tacos, and more. HD TVs everywhere for Tennessee and pro sports with an outdoor patio and 2 levels of entertainment, trivia, karaoke, and weekend DJs. The Hill sponsors the student section at Ice Bears games and is the Friday home for rock solid sports. More at thehillknox.com.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to listener donations and support from the UT Athletic Department. After making it to Omaha last season, the 2022 baseball ball season begins in February and runs into May, featuring games with SEC rivals South Carolina, Alabama, Georgia, and more at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Season group and individual game ticket info is at allvols.com. Students need to show their valid UT ID at the gate for entrance. Tune into Rock Solid Sports for UT baseball coverage, and The Rock wishes Coach Vitello and the Baseballs good luck on the diamond this season.
Volunteer Radio stays on air thanks to Cool Beans, the 21 Up college sports bar next to campus on Lake Avenue, a block off the strip. Cool Beans has 25 rotating beer taps and bottles. HD TVs everywhere, along with darts, pool, and arcade games. Open every day at 11 a.m. till late night. Burgers, wings, and sandwiches, Vol card accepted. Cool Beans hosts Rock Solid Sports every Monday night at 7. Trivia Tuesdays, Bingo Thursdays. More on Instagram at Knox Cool Beans or CoolBeansBar.com.
WTK has kicked off 40 for 40 fundraising campaign as part of our Rockin' Ears for 40 Years birthday celebration all year long. We'll be hosting fundraising events throughout the year to raise $40,000 so that we can obtain a new off-campus tower and transmitter site and allow our student-involved DJs as well as 90.3 The Rock's taste-making programming to be heard where it has not been heard before. Our next 40 for 40 event is the Night of Legends concert featuring the Carl Snow Band, and reunion sets by STDs and the Clintons, Saturday, March 19th at Barley's. Supporters can also make a tax-deductible donation to our 40 campaign on the Support WUTK tab at WUTKradio.com.
Support to keep the rock on air comes from listeners and from the UT Athletic Department and the UT Lady Ball softball team, whose home season scheduled at Sherry Parker Lee Stadium features games against SEC rivals Arkansas, Texas A&M, Auburn, and others. Allballs.com for Lady Ball softball tickets and more. UT students need a valid UT ID for admission to home games. Rock Solid Sports provides UT softball coverage. Volunteer Radio wishes Coach Weekly and the 2022 Lady Ball softball team good luck on their diamond this season as they compete to return to the College Softball World Series.
Happy time, you'll always be home sweet home to me.
Volunteer Radio has the most diverse playlist anywhere. And now you'll get even more. Thursday nights at 7 with Out Loud Knoxville, LGBTQ plus artists, allies, and more. On Instagram at Out Loud Knox. Only on 90.3 The Rock, where we take pride in our diversity.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from listeners and from the Knoxville Ice Bears Southern Professional Hockey League team, whose 2021-2022 home ice season includes games with SPHL rivals Fayetteville, Huntsville, and others at the Civic Coliseum in downtown Knoxville. The Ice Bears regular season runs through April 9th, and season and single game tickets at KnoxvilleIceBears.com. Tune in to WUTK Rock Solid Sports for the Wednesday Ice Bears news and updates. Volunteer Radio says go Ice Bears.
Volunteer Radio remains on air thanks to support from Fieldhouse Social, a modern sports bar and restaurant next to the UT campus at University Commons. Open every day at 11 a.m., serving American craft fare, beer, and cocktails inside or on the covered patio. With over 25 HD TVs at every angle and all UT games shown on the 20-foot LED TV wall. At FH Social Knox on Instagram, fieldhousesocial.com.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from Tennessee Smokies Baseball, the AA Southern League affiliate of the Chicago Cubs, whose 2022 regular season schedule features 6-game homestands Tuesdays through Sundays at nearby Smokies Stadium in Kodak against the Chattanooga Lookouts, Mississippi Braves, Birmingham Barons, and more. WUTK's Rock Solid Sports will cover Smokies Baseball all season long. SmokiesBaseball.com, and a link is at WUTKRadio.com.
Welcome back to Rock Solid Sports on Friday night, sponsored by the Hill Bar and Grill in the back of the strip on Forest Avenue. Connor is down at the Hill Bar and Grill. How is our sponsor, the Hill, tonight?
It is steadily picking up. As soon as we started the show, I told you were good luck, Chloe. As soon as we started, people started walking in.
Awesome. Yeah, Friday nights are, I know, a big night there. Do they have all the basketball games on in there?
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
Every single TV. Last time I was here, they had one TV playing golf. Not even this time. Jokes aside, now it's serious, down to business.
I'm sure, for sure. Yeah, they got all those weird channels I was just talking about where every game is gonna be on, talking about the game being on True TV. I thought The Impractical Jokers was on True TV 24/7, but I guess I'm wrong. Anyways, that's a joke. Anyways, okay, sorry, I'm making myself laugh. Anyways, let's get into some women's basketball here. The women's basketball tournament, and like I said, there hasn't been as many games played so far. Of course, it's a little bit behind. Which is weird to me because the women's basketball season it wraps up earlier than men's, but then they all kind of start the same and start later. So so far in this women's basketball tournament, my predictions are completely incorrect and my bracket is busted, etc., etc. I think, of course, I predicted Gonzaga to beat Nebraska, but the one thing I wanted to talk about first of all is South Carolina beat Howard 79-21. That's not a big deal because we kind of it's South Carolina, but also they held Howard to only 4 points at the end of the first half of this game. That was at the end of the first half. I think that this is crazy. I know we were talking about it a little bit earlier, and there's just such a large gap, of course, in women's basketball a lot with the talented teams, and not the teams to say that aren't talented, but the skill of the teams. So I think that this was huge, and this is really weird to me considering all the other teams are, kind of getting a few upsets so far today. But then you have South Carolina, a 1 seed, beating Howard with holding them to so many points. I mean, what do you guys think about South Carolina in this tournament? I personally have them as the national champions, and I don't think it's too hard to say anything else.
No,
Yeah.
I think it'd be hard to say anything else,
Hard to
honestly,
say.
because I mean, you put up only 4 points in the first half, and I mean it's video game numbers. I remember like in 2K12 way back when I turned to easy mode and I was just like, okay, this is kind of boring. Not to disrespect Howard. It's a major accomplishment to make the NCAA tournament in any way, shape, or form. So them being here deserves kudos for sure. But again, they're going up against South Carolina, the team that is the favorite to win it all, the team that just seems to have every position covered, that is just playing basketball at an incredibly high level. But to score 79-21 against a team, I mean, it's preposterous. I can't remember the last time I saw a game like this. And it's just, I think South Carolina, it's going to be really special watching them in this tournament, but also it's going to be special watching the Lady Vols as well, because the Lady Vols are a talented team. With the time they've had to rest, I think they'll make a run as well. But South Carolina they seem to be head and shoulders above most teams, not just in the NCAA, but in the NCAA tournament.
For sure. Yeah. South Carolina is so high above there. Keegan, were you about to say something about them?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I saw some clips for that game. They just look ridiculous. Obviously, the entire first half, they held them to 4 points, 2 points in each quarter. I mean, they just look leaps and bounds ahead of that team. But I think that's kind of now. Obviously, we've seen some more upsets this year than in normal years. But that's kind of the theme in women's basketball, especially in the first round when you get these power conference team versus these mid majors. There's a much bigger gap in women's basketball than there is in men's. Now, I think part of that's just due to the level of money that goes into these programs, into these women's programs. Some of these smaller schools just don't get a lot of money, and there's also just less of a talent pool. I think, if you're a really good women's basketball player in high school, you tend to get noticed and tend to get these offers from the Tennessees, from the South Carolinas, from the UConns, places like that. Whereas in men's basketball, there just seems to be a lot more players in that talent pool, where some of them kind of slip under the cracks and get to these mid-majors so they can, make these runs in March, and that just doesn't tend to happen as much in women's basketball from what I've seen. So I don't tend to turn into these earlier rounds as much because things like this happen, but I think, once you get to that Elite Eight and Final Four, it's definitely much more exciting because you get those talented teams matched up.
For sure. That's such a great point. Like you were saying, I guess, parity disparity there between teams that get great players, the teams that I know high school girls basketball players, who are really into it, dream of playing at. There's not that many in women's basketball when you think about it. There is a lot that you could say in men's basketball, but women's basketball tends to be have very few legacies, like UConn, I don't know, sometimes Kentucky, Tennessee, and of course South Carolina. But that's definitely something I've noticed before and thought about, because it was weird to me how growing up here in Knoxville, I never thought anything less of women's basketball. If anything, I thought more of women's basketball because I knew more people went to the Lady Vols games. And as long as I was growing up, the Lady Vols were always better than the men's team. And then when you grow up and you see all these other teams getting posted on ESPN Sports Center, people talking about women's basketball, and you realize how many people do not watch women's basketball, do not think it is as good as men's. It was like a shock for me, just because I don't know, I just growing up in Knoxville, I guess it was like a bubble of women's basketball, all hail Lady Vols, Pat Summitt, that kind of thing, which is reasonable. Yes, I do support that. All hail Pat Summitt, the GOAT. Anyways, Keegan, anything about South Carolina and this gap between great women's teams and the seeds below?
You mean Connor?
Connor, yes, I'm so sorry.
I mean, I don't think we're talking about the letdown South Carolina had in this game in the second half. I mean, allowing them to score, 16 second half points? Come on now. What a joke. No, but I'm kidding. I think that, like you were saying, and it's really a big discrepancy when it comes to the talent level in women's sports, just because there are such few programs that people grow up dreaming of going to, So I think the only way maybe to fix that is to just keep pushing the women's basketball brand. Just keep pushing it, keep it driving, and eventually, schools will start to build up to where they want to be.
Yeah, and I think part of it also is scholarships, because like I know some people personally who got recruited to play D1's women's basketball and just chose not to and chose to go to like the bigger state school just because they got offered to have a spot on the team at this D1 women's basketball program, but it's a smaller program. They're not giving you a scholarship, so you're going to be less likely to go there when you can go get money. You're in if you're in Knoxville and you have an offer to some small D1 school, or you can just go to Tennessee and get money. I mean, it's definitely a hard decision. As opposed to men's basketball, obviously, pretty much every D1 program gives full rides.
Right. That's definitely like a good explanation. And I will say, Florida Gulf Coast University, moving on from that topic a little bit, beat Virginia Tech with definitely an upset. I would say for sure. I picked Virginia Tech to win because I really do not think they are a bad women's basketball team. They, it was a very close game. This was, of course, way earlier on in the season, a road game with the Lady Vols versus Virginia Tech, and it was very close, but the Lady Vols came out with the win. But Florida Gulf Coast beat Virginia Tech in this game. So this is kind of an example of, a few upsets that have happened more than usual than in the first round of the women's tournament as well. Ole Miss, South Dakota beat Ole Miss 75-61. Ole Miss in previous years has been a really, really young team and was not, quite blatantly, was not a very good team. But now they've kind of been picking up, but they're out of the first round against South Dakota. Creighton, like I said, wins against Colorado 84-74. Both their men's and women's teams still in the tournament. Let's see. There's a lot of women's games actually going on right now because, like I said, those are more, taking place tonight. I know Keegan was talking about how there's not a lot. He kind of tunes into the later games, but are there any women's teams you are looking at tonight, like we did with kind of the men's teams? Of course, tomorrow, Tennessee versus Buffalo. But just any comments on March Madness overall, any teams that you've been looking at this season in the women's tournament that you expect maybe to make a run? I'll start with Grant.
Well, for me, I know I'm biased, and I did this the last time you asked this question for the men's bracket, and I said Tennessee. That was the game I was looking forward to. But similarly here, I think this Tennessee women's basketball team did a lot of incredible things that we didn't expect at the start of the season. Not that they weren't talented, but we thought that there were some rough edges that needed to be smoothed out. And as the season went on, we started off 19-2, massive run at the very beginning of the year. And obviously we had some injuries and some other things come up that derailed us a bit at the end. But having had time to rest, and we've said this for the last several shows, having had time to rest, this is a game changer for the Lady Vols because it could return them to form of what we saw earlier in the year in that team that went 19-2. I think the Lady Vols, for me, I feel like it's an Elite 8 team. I look at them and I say this is a talented enough team, certainly, to do that when fully healthy. And right now, I don't know if I would say they're fully healthy, but they're about back. When Jordan Horston is back on the court as well, that's going to be a formidable force to try and overcome if you're any other team. So Lady Vols, I think go to the Elite 8. My personal take.
Interesting. I really hope that happens. I do think the Lady Vols have had, an outstanding season because you have to take into consideration all the injuries and all the, adversity that they face. Last year, it was the adversity people said of COVID. This year, it's really the adversity of injuries for the Lady Vols. Connor at the Hill, any teams you're expecting to make an maybe unexpected by most people, or unexpected run late into March Madness?
Well, obviously, I hope Tennessee goes far. Got to throw that out there first. I think, I agree with you. I think South Carolina is going to take it home. I think UConn will obviously go far, but because I am a hater, I will just go ahead and say it now. Whoever they play, I'm rooting for because I want to see UConn lose.
Me too. Anything else?
I don't know if I have Tennessee going as far as the Elite Eight. I would be ecstatic about that, but I'm just really nervous about our offensive scoring capabilities. I think the lack of 3-point shooting that we have on the team is, I think that's probably going to be what kills our season.
Right.
Not being able to hit the three ball, but we will see. I'm hopeful.
I think for me, the thing you're mentioning UConn, I think for UConn here, I don't know about how deep they're going to go just because of Paige Buckers having been injured for so long of the season. Now she's back in the game, which is a huge thing. But I mean, after you're injured for so long, we see it with tons of sports teams. It's not exactly the same when someone comes back. Obviously, she's a great player. I think she's, in my opinion, she's really, a good role model for young girls. She's very well spoken, but I don't know. I don't know about how far UConn will go into this, and because of that, I don't have them going super deep. But we'll have to see. How about you, Keegan?
Yeah, I don't love the Lady Vols making a deep run, to be honest. I mean, especially with how they played down the stretch this season, and obviously they got that 5 seed, so they're gonna have to take on a 1 in the Sweet 16. I'm not sure who the one in their bracket is. I don't know if you know, but they'll have to take on a 1. So that's probably where their run will end if I had to predict. But for me, I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina. I'm here right now, so I'm going to be rooting for the 1 seed Wolfpack to make a deep run. I think they have a good shot as the 1 seed. I'd love to see a matchup between them and South Carolina. I don't know if anyone's beating that South Carolina team, but I think NC State has probably one of the best shots to do it.
All right. Yeah. That's interesting picks. Definitely looking super forward. Lady Vols have to take on Louisville, by the way, which is the 1 seed. Louisville's a 1 seed. Yeah. So that's going to be very difficult. That's in the Sweet 16. So definitely nervous about that. I'm also just nervous about Oregon, who the Lady Vols are going to play if they beat Buffalo. I'm nervous about everything. I get very nervous this time of year, but surprisingly, I'm not as nervous about the men's team. I don't know. I think with just their confidence, hopefully it's real confidence and it's really going to carry throughout the season. But we have to move on throughout the tournament. But we have to move on to Diamond Vols and Lady Vols here in a second. I did want to mention them because they've been doing absolutely excellent, and it is moving into the height of baseball and lady softball season. So we're going to take a short break here, and we will get back into it after this word from some of our sponsors.
Things that used to be funny ain't funny anymore. What used to be wrong was the good old days when we didn't get along. Black is white, up is down, north is south, and all turn around. Elvis is back in the past.
90.3 The Rock, local music's best friend.
The Rock stays on air thanks to The Hill Bar and Grill in the Fort on Forest Avenue. The Hill is open 7 days a week at 11 a.m. until late night for food and drinks inside or on the expanded patio with appetizers like spicy cheese bings and a menu of wings, burgers, tacos, and more. Saturday and Sunday breakfast menu. HGTVs everywhere and 2 levels of entertainment. Trivia Mondays, karaoke Thursdays, and DJs on the weekends. The Hill is home for Rock Solid Sports Friday broadcast at 7 p.m. On social media at The Hill Knox. Menu at thehillknox.com.
WTK thanks the nonprofit UT School of Music for their support. The University of Tennessee Opera Theater is a training program for young operatic artists pursuing a Master of Music degree. The UT Opera Theater presents performances of Die Fledermaus April 8th through the 10th at World's Fair Park. Die Fledermaus, sometimes called The Revenge of the Bat, is an opera composed by Johann Strauss II in 1874. Performances at World's Fair Park are Friday, April 8th at 7 p.m., Saturday, April 9th at 2 p.m. and 7 p.m., and Sunday, April 10th at 2 p.m. More info at music.utk.edu/opera. Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to listener donations and support from the UT Athletic Department. After making it to Omaha last season, the 2022 baseball ball season begins in February and runs into May, featuring games with SEC rivals South Carolina, Alabama, Georgia, and more at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Season group and individual game ticket info is at allvols.com. Students need to show their valid UT ID at the gate for entrance. Tune into Rock Solid Sports for UT baseball coverage, and The Rock wishes Coach Vitello and the baseballs good luck on the diamond this season.
Volunteer Radio remains on air thanks to support from Fieldhouse Social, a modern sports bar and restaurant next to the UT campus at University Commons. Open every day at 11 a.m., serving American craft fare, beer, and cocktails inside or on the covered patio. With over 25 HD TVs at every angle and all UT games shown on the 20-foot LED TV wall. At FH Social Knox on Instagram, fieldhousesocial.com.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from Tennessee Smokies Baseball, the AA Southern League affiliate of the Chicago Cubs, whose 2022 regular season schedule features 6-game homestands Tuesdays through Sundays at nearby Smoky Stadium in Kodak against the Chattanooga Lookouts, Mississippi Braves, Birmingham Barons, and more. WUTK's Rock Solid Sports will cover Smokies Baseball all season long. SmokiesBaseball.com, and a link is at WUTKRadio.com.
I'm WUTK alum John Wilkerson from the Vol Network and Sports Talk on the Sports Animal, and you're tuned to Volunteer Radio 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock, the original home for the Sports Update. Go Vols!
Volunteer Radio stays on air thanks to Cool Beans, the 21 Up college sports bar next to campus on Lake Avenue, a block off the strip. Cool Beans has 25 rotating beer taps and bottles. HD TVs everywhere, along with darts, pool, and arcade games. Open every day at 11 a.m. till late night. Burgers, wings, and sandwiches, Vol card accepted. Cool Beans hosts Rock Solid Sports every Monday night at 7. Trivia Tuesdays, Bingo Thursdays. More on Instagram at Knox Cool Beans or CoolBeansBar.com.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from listeners and from the Knoxville Ice Bears Southern Professional Hockey League team, whose 2021-2022 home ice season includes games with SPHL rivals Fayetteville, Huntsville, and others at the Civic Coliseum in downtown Knoxville. The Ice Bears regular season runs through April 9th, and season and single game tickets at KnoxvilleIceBears.com. Tune in to WUTK Rock Solid Sports for the Wednesday Ice Bears news and updates. Volunteer Radio says go Ice Bears.
Support to keep the Rock on air comes from listeners and from the UT Athletic Department and the UT Lady Ball softball team, whose home season scheduled at Sherry Parker Lee Stadium features games against SEC rivals Arkansas, Texas A&M, Auburn, and others. Allballs.com for Lady Ball softball tickets and more. UT students need a valid UT ID for admission to home games. Rock Solid Sports provides UT softball coverage. Volunteer Radio wishes Coach Weekly and the 2022 Lady Ball softball team good luck on their diamond this season as they compete to return to the College Softball World Series.
Happy times, you'll always be home sweet home to me.
Welcome back to Rock Solid Sports on Friday night. This is your host, Chloe, here with you. And tonight's show is sponsored by the Hill Bar and Grill on Forest Avenue in the back of the fort, where you can watch all the March Madness you could possibly imagine, as well as baseball and softball, which we're about to get into. Connor is down at the Hill Bar and Grill tonight. Connor, how's the Hill looking now for your final check-in here before we close out the show at 8?
It's still picking up. People are excited about UTC. Currently up at the break. So that is big news here. But yeah, the drinks are flowing. The food is coming.
Awesome. Have you gotten anything to eat?
I have not. I was going to hold off until after the show. I figured eating during maybe not be the best idea. But
Right. Yeah, they have so many good things there. Appetizers, wings.
They do.
Wings and appetizers, spicy cheese wings.
I'm literally staring down this couple eating this sub next to me, so they better hurry up or it might be snatched.
I've never had any sandwiches. I wonder if they're good. I bet they
had
are.
a catfish sandwich here once. It was really good.
Ooh, interesting. Catfish. Anyways, Hill Bar and Grill, great food, great times, lots of TVs, etc. Tons of games. They also have games like most of our other sponsors, pool, things like that. And as spring comes up, spring is coming up among us. They have a giant patio as well. That's really great with a view of World's Fair Park in downtown at the Hill. So, definitely hit them up this spring to watch some sports, get some food and drinks and things like that. So let's get into baseball season here. First with the baseball team out of our Diamond Sports segment. Coach Tony Vitello got his 150th win with their second win against Eastern Kentucky University. They won 7-1. So that's super exciting. But now, of course, they've played all these teams who aren't in super big leagues, excluding Texas, of course, which was the only loss that the baseballs have under their belt. And now, next up, they are going into some conference games here with South Carolina. They start that tonight. So,
the Vols are up.
South Carolina tonight, but also Vandy is coming up. Of course, Vandy also always has a great baseball team. But yeah, South Carolina actually that started about an hour ago. So super exciting to see what scores that is going to be. How do you guys feel about the baseballs going into SEC play here?
Yeah, the Vols are up 3-0 on South Carolina right now, top of the fifth. I mean, they've looked great this season. Obviously, their only loss being to the then number 1 Texas team. I was lucky enough to be in the stadium covering for one of their games in the James Madison series this past week, where the Vols hit 7 home runs, which tied a team record. So, I mean, when you have a team that's that fun and kind of hitting these bombs, I mean, gets the crowd into it, gets them, just gets things going. I mean, this team's good. Obviously, they're going to have some tests coming up. They have number 1 Ole Miss coming up in a couple weeks here, and then Vanderbilt in the start of April. So I think we'll find out who this team is after those 2 series.
I think so as well. Grant or Connor, any opinions about the SEC coming up SEC play for baseball?
Yeah, well, we've got South Carolina game tomorrow as well that I'm very fortunate to have the opportunity to get to cover. And yeah, I mean, it's been a great season for the Tennessee baseballs, and I've loved seeing Coach Vitello since he took the job. I mean, he's been he's just brought in a culture change. I mean, the team has been intense. It's been exciting. I remember the first time I saw him, it was my freshman year of college back 2017, 2018. I thought, was that one of the players? And it's incredible. I mean, he is a baseball savant, and we were very lucky to have him now and for many, many more years.
Connor?
Yeah, I actually got to cover that Eastern Kentucky game.
Oh.
And let me just go ahead and say Trey Lipscomb,
Yeah.
certified stud. That man is a monster. It was the second inning, and he already had 2 home runs. He hit he had a grand slam and a 2-run bomb in his first 2 at-bats in the first 2 innings of that game. He's leading the team in home runs. I don't know. I think he's up to 9, 10, somewhere around there.
Yeah, it's got to be around there.
But I actually shout out that man too. I had some classes with him a couple semesters ago. Really nice guy. But and then I think our pitching is looking really good too. We have Joyce out here. If you're on any baseball Twitter, people are salivating over this man being able to consistently pump 102 in the strike zone with consistent velocity and location.
Yeah, for sure. Trey Lipscomb stays wearing the daddy hat and now the fur coat, right? He stays wearing that throughout all the games. He's super great. And I mean, it's not even just him. This team is just packed with star players, with great players, and more that I think are going to go into the pros. There's just no question. Running over some softball really quick. The Lady Vols are also kind of going crazy. They had a win against Memphis in the Mid-State Classic against Memphis on Tuesday, 8-4. SEC begins tonight for the Lady Vols as well. They have a series against Arkansas at 6 p.m. That should be exciting. Arkansas is a good team for softball as well. And they beat number 1 at the time, Missouri, last week. So next Friday, they also have a series against Florida. So like we said with the men's with baseball, we're definitely going to see how these teams are looking come SEC play as they enter it. So it's an exciting time for not only basketball but also baseball as well, college baseball. So thanks for tuning in tonight. Tonight's show is sponsored by the Hill Bar and Grill, a block away from World's Fair Park on Forest Avenue in the back of the fort. Definitely go to the Hill for all your game day needs and food and beverage needs as well. Thanks for sponsoring tonight's show, the Hill Bar and Grill, and thanks for Grant, Keegan, and Connor for coming on tonight. Everyone have a great night. The Funhouse is coming up next, and thanks for tuning into 90.3 The Rock, Rock Solid Sports.